what is up guys, KS here. In today's video I'll be talking about 5 essential tips that I've learned that got me to Platinum playing ADCarry only. So tip number 1. You should always prioritize staying alive. Your main focus is to stay alive pretty much throughout the entire game, because if you die during any point of the game, you will most likely cost your team an objective. Not to forget, you obviously also lose out gold and experience, which is never good. One of the things I noticed in lower elo is that you can be up ahead in gold, kill, farm, but you start hitting terrors when there's no reason to, which often leads to the ADCarry dying, throwing the game. So do not hit terrors without a reason, just don't hit it. Only hit it when an enemy is dead or you just heard a recall. Same applies to Baron and Dragon. Respect Fog of War. Whenever enemies are missing from the map, the chances are they're coming for you. Most players will try to shove in a lane or try to farm a side lane, but end up dead because they went too far out without vision. So if you keep this in mind, you can avoid silly deaths. So during your next ranked game, keep this in mind. Fog of War means they are coming for you, and you won't die to an enemy coming out of nowhere and one-shotting you again. So, same again with the Fog of War idea. If there are assassins on the enemy team like Shaco, Evelyn, and Rengar, they're coming for you. You're their main priority target at all times throughout the game. A Rengar, for example, pretty much can run through the entire map just to kill you if you're on your own. So unless you're with a tank or a support, do not leave your turret, or else you'll most likely end up dead. So the main point to take away here is that do not hit terrors or do any objective for a reason, like when an enemy is dead. And Fog of War means they're coming for you. Do not forget it. So moving on to tip number 2. So tip number 2, understand the lane matchup. I actually took this picture from another League content creator. His link will be in the description below. So there are 4 basic types of matchups: sustain, poke, all-in, and disrupt. Sustain lane basically can out-trade a poke lane because they can heal up after each trade. So it is pointless to trade against a sustain lane unless you're going all-in or can burst the enemy down. An all-in lane and disrupt lane is when you catch out an opponent out of position and punish him for it. They're pretty similar, but disrupt lane have more disable and utility cooldowns to alpha than all-in. An all-in lane will pretty much use all their abilities within the first 2 seconds of all-inning an opponent. Poke lane is great against melee matchups, which are mostly disrupt lanes. You can whittle down your opponent so that when the enemy attempts an all-in, you have an HP advantage to start off with, and simply win the fight by default, even if the enemy manages to land every CC. But that is not to say just because you have a lane advantage, you will automatically win the lane. You still have to play to your win condition. For example, if you have a Blitzcrank against a Janna, you're not going to do much if your Blitzcrank never manages to land a single hook during the laning phase. So keep that in mind. I recommend pausing the video here and take a screenshot of this, and on your next ranked game make sure to check out the matchup type, and once you get familiar with this, you'll be able to understand the matchup on the spot. So that pretty much covers up the bot lane matchup. So tip number 3, understand how to gain an early lane control. At the start of each laning phase, you want to focus hitting the minions for an early level 2 advantage, by killing the first wave, plus 3 more melee minions from the second wave. You and your support will then get level 2. If you can get it before your opponent, you can then attempt an all-in or a trade that forces the opponent back and give you an early HP advantage, and sometimes even make them blow their summoner spells. Once you have the advantage over your opponent, you can then hard shove the wave into the terror. But remember tip number 1, all this lane advantage is pointless if you die in lane. So keep an eye out for the mid lane and roams and the enemy jungler. Lane control basically means having control over the lane by being able to push the wave into the enemy terror without the enemy laner being able to contest it. This gives you the opportunity to look for reaction roams, place deep wards, and depending on the situation you may very well can get away from enemy jungle ganks. You can even turn on the enemy jungler and all-in him for a kill. If the opposite happens, the enemy outpushes you, Make sure to back off on the enemy level 2 all-in or trade attempt. Try to hit the minions to avoid being shoved on your own turret. If you know the wave is going to crash eventually, do not hit the minions at all, because if the HP on the minions are not even, you will have a very hard time last hitting the CS on the turret. But most of the time, once you have the lane control, if the enemy jungler tries to gank, the bot lane has to walk through the entire minion wave in order to follow up on the jungler, which in turn takes a lot of minion damage. Here's a good example of what I just said in one of the games I played the other day. So as you can see here, I'm the Ashe in this case, and we have a clear HP advantage over the enemy bot lane. I know the enemy jungler is Cal, which does not have any hard CC, and I can easily kite him out. So the enemy jungler comes and tries to gank, and I start kiting him out. Their bot lane was very late to follow up because of the cannon wave hitting the turret, and Nami was zoning them out with the bubble. You can almost say the minion wave counts as another player at early levels. You can see they're struggling to follow up, and I can simply kite out. And I forced Cal and their bot lane back. I almost ended up getting a kill, which was great considering it was a 3 versus 2, but I forgot Jinx had heal, which was a bad play on my part. In order to make that play work, I needed to commit both of my summoner spells, flash and heal, for the extra movement speed for maximum chase time. And this is pretty much what it means to have lane control. You can do a lot of things with this. Early lane control, you can bully your opponent, and not even the enemy jungler can gank you. Alright, moving on to tip number 4. Tip number 4. Understand what are good fights to take and bad fights to avoid. In general, you always want to take fights whilst having numbers advantage. A 5 versus 4 for example, there's almost no way you lose a fight with number advantage unless the enemy team is ridiculously ahead or you're misplaying, but that is usually not the case. Another type of fight you always want to take is when you know you will immediately kill an opponent so fast there's no way his team can respond to. A thing to keep note of, any enemies missing from the map are also counted as another member at the fight. So most of the time when a fight is taking place, you think it is an even 3 versus 3 fight in the bot lane. But then turns out the enemy top laner TPs in and the mid laner is missing from the map, and turns out he's actually roaming towards the fight. And all of a sudden it becomes a 3 versus 5 in favor of the enemy, while the top laner does not have TP, and the mid laner is late to follow. This is why any members on the enemy team missing from the map also count as another player at the fight. Here's a good example of what I've been talking about. As you can see here, our Kai'Sa catches out the enemy Lulu try to place a ward. She immediately flashed out. But take a look at the map. Remember what I talked about. Any members from the enemy team missing from the map counts as another player at the fight. Unless we're able to blow Lulu up. Right? Which we're not able to. And we know Lulu still have her ultimate up, so we try to chase her down thinking we can kill her. Unfortunately, I got bounced back here and I was unable to put any more damage onto Lulu. And here, Kai'Sa just disrespected the Ziggs so much and she died from doing so. And here, at this point, the fight is pretty much over because we did not immediately blow Lulu up. We're now in a tight spot where the enemy have a man advantage. Unless Gangplank TPs in, which he did not, and the enemy king can come from any angle within the bottom side of his jungle, as you can see, and the Kog'Maw was occupied by the large minion wave, but now if we keep fighting, we'll be trapped in the river, as the Kog'Maw can rotate in, and we'll be trapped. And without a doubt, we'll both die. So I made the call to immediately run away. And I encounter Kog'Maw and have to flash out. So that was a classic example of what having man advantage is like. And if you're not able to immediately kill an opponent, do not chase her into the fog of war. It is really bad because you don't know where the enemy is and they can come out from anywhere and pretty much blow you up. Because you're chasing, skill shots are easier to land. So I hope this was a good example to help you guys understand what I mean by picking good and bad fights. Having man advantage is really important. And also, if you can blow up an enemy so fast they cannot react, that is also another big point to take away. So tip number 5, understanding the team fighting basics. There are 4 basic steps to this. So step number 1 is direct initiation, where a support or a tank touches someone out, but the damage dealer do not go in yet, until the enemy frontline or tank uses their cooldowns. In step 2, follow up and hit tank phase. This is where an AD carry hits tank after they have used their cooldowns. And the follow up phase forces everyone to use cooldowns, which leads to the step 3, kill backline phase, where the AP carry can flash for the backline or just kill frontline if tanks are stronger. An AD carry can also dive to the backline if enemy has no burst cooldowns. The last step is cleanup phase, where you can flash forward to kill fleeing opponents. This will make objectives a lot easier to take. And unfortunately, I do not think I can create a better video at explaining team fighting than the 2 of the episodes from LeagueCraft 101. So here you go, guys. It should be on the screen, 2 videos. Make sure to check these 2 videos to learn about team fighting. It is explained extremely well, and you should have no issues with team fighting once you watch it a few times. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Consider dropping a like and subscribe because that really helps me out. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.